Good evening, antique tractor pulling fans. Delmarva Live is with you tonight, and yes, a little sooner than a month later, but that's okay. I guess with the rains and everything, nobody can farm right now. So hey, we're live, and I'm going to pretty much turn it over to Richard, Olin, and Sarah. And man, we got a little amount of guests here. We got Nicole Morrison from Mason-Dixon Fairgrounds in Delta, Pennsylvania. AJ Arnold up yonder in Pennsylvania a little further, and Paul Crowe from Wisconsin is going to be our tech talk tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to these three, and you guys take it from there. Now, we'll forewarn you, there might be a little bit of delay, so everybody just take a second and listen for everybody to talk, because somebody's internet system takes over. That's okay. So far, so good. It's working. We're going to go ahead and give it a whirl. So, Olin and crew, if you want to go ahead and take off with
it. All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and watching us. We have a little bit of a rain event out here on the East Coast. It's kind of not anything major, but we have some rain events. So we was going to run next week, but we're thinking next week going to be a little drier. Be back doing hay and wheat and stuff. So we went tonight instead. We have AJ Arnold going to tell us about how things went at Sealands Road this past weekend. Had a very nice pull up there in terms of Sealands Road. Nicole had a good pull this weekend in Delta, I believe. And Delta, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it's Delta. And we got Paul Crowe going to do some tech talking with us. We're going to start off with something simple. Spark plugs. Everybody got a problem. Some people got more problems than others. You know anybody, Richard?
No.
Anybody. We're here to tell stories. But so we got a lot to talk about. We're going to lead off with AJ. He's been looking very much forward to a chance to talk. AJ, let's talk a little bit about Sealands Grove this past weekend. I had a great time there. Richard got to go. Wonderful turnout, good weather.
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry, AJ. Nicole is kind of like pressed for time. I should have told you that ahead of time.
Change up.
Yeah. She's they're hauling tractors to the old time days of Folk Road weekend, so
ladies first.
It's okay.
You're good.
There you go.
It's all you, Nicole.
We're driving anyway. You're good.
On there.
Maybe we'll just go back to AJ.
So we go back to AJ.
Yeah, Nicole's. I know the area she's driving in. She's gonna have a hard time having service. Just go with AJ.
AJ, let's go back to you then.
Yes, sir.
AJ, how was your hook count this past weekend with your new program you run with 5 classes?
5 classes, and then we had a final 10 at the end.
To describe your drawbar set, your weight allowances, what the tire restrictions was, and what the weights was, and the speed. Tell them about that.
So everything was 4 mile. Everything was 4 mile an hour. We had 5 classes. It was 45, 5,000, 55, 6, and 65. You were allowed to have 4 hooks. We kept your best 3 for your championship to get into the final 10, which was 57.50. It was all small tire cut, any cut. Drawbar was 18 back, 20 high. We had a total of 198 hooks. 49 tractors showed up.
Right. Explain to him how the money went and how the ones that got into the final 10. Since they earned their way in, they didn't even pay. They rode in, and explain to them all how that worked out.
So on our 5 classes, what I did was $20 a hook, 70% payback on them 5 classes, and then if you made the final 10 in points, to me that was a given. You earned to get into that class. And then what we did was the top 3. First place was $500 to win. Second place was $300 to win. And third place was $200 to win. And then the final 10 actually did do a gamblers. They all talked there when I was having a little get-together meeting with them, and they all pitched in. I think it was $20 a hook or $20 a person, and the gentleman that won it, he took home all that too yet on top.
Well, that's a pretty good day for him.
Oh yes, he had a very good day.
You might want to go ahead and give him credit. Tell him his name and all.
Ken Reynolds from up in New York.
There you go.
And then
he had a very good day.
And then our second place guy was the Clingers pulling team. And then third place was John Colton from up by like Troy area.
And all of them did a very good job of pulling throughout the day. Some of us kind of struggled on the track, didn't quite find their footing correctly. But when you go there to learn, and sometimes the learning curve is a little bit painful on the losing side, but hey, that's cool. You get to learn. The track. Let's talk about the track for the day. It's a well-known power track, but the cool air, warm air, and wind kind of changed a little bit on you.
So Friday night, me and Mike Lessman and Dale Buckley Sr., we chiseled it out. We got her in deep, and we started putting water in it, and it started raining. So we decided just let it open all night long and figured let Mother Nature do its course. And Saturday morning, we got up early and started dumping more water, disc it, and then put more water in it, disc it again. We thought it would hold, and it held up. I think, Matt Richard, at 4,500, it did good, and I think half of 5,000, and it just started drying out. But what was it, like high 80s and like 30-mile-an-hour winds at sometimes. We lost the track at probably mid 5,000 pound class.
And it was full sun too.
Yeah, it was warm.
And you hadn't had time to put misters on the scraper yet. You just kind of built a scraper tractor this year and all. And so it's a work in progress, and it's all acceptable in tractor pulling. But it is summertime pulling, and everybody has to deal with this in summertime pulling, at maintaining a track during them conditions. So, as the words of the wise, everybody be prepared for summertime pulls to go that way. They can go dry on you, or however it can change. Now, Sealands Grove, they even put a tarp over their track at nighttime if they feel it's necessary. They're very pro track maintenance group. If you got a chance to have a good track, they're going to see him make it happen. Senior's very good at what he does, and the whole group is. And it's always a delight to go there. Would you say, Richard?
I'd say, we already talked. There has been talk already. We are going to put a sprinkler system on the roller. I think we're going to do it on the front of the roller or something. But it's just one of them deals, like you guys said, trying to do all-day pool. It's not bad if you had a 4-hour pool, but we're always getting so big, and it just keeps getting more competitors. Where an all-day pool, you guys are right, we have to do something, or the track's just turn into a dust storm.
And that's a good thing, actually, that you have moved up through your management and your advertising and your class setup to be a full all-day pool. But with 50 tractors in a class, do you see splits in classes coming up, or maintaining just a straight 50 tractor?
That's still talk. There's nothing set on that yet. It's like you said, it's a lot to try to figure out, and try to go from there and see what happens. I think we're going to try to take one step at a time, which right now will be the sprinkler system and trying to put a water tank on and, see if we can maintain the track a little better for these longer pools.
It sounds like a great plan to me, doesn't you? Oh, definitely. Yes. And, those that are watching, it's a problem that you all will have to deal with throughout the summer as well. And I thought it was a good pool. What else do you have coming up soon up your way that you know of?
So I know we got Trout Run coming up this Saturday if the weather holds out. They're doing a bunch of muddy hooks.
What type? Is that an uncut pool? Uncut tire?
So I know they're having 6 mile an hour. They're having small tire cut and I think non-cut. But they're doing a King of Quaker Hill, which is sort of the same thing we did. They're just calling it King of Quaker Hill. Same concept, I think pretty much the same. And then they're also doing a small tire non-cut bracket pool. So it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a very busy, long day. Hopefully the weather holds out.
Be a long day and half a minute.
But it'd be good. It's always good pulling up there with Trout Run.
Oh yeah, Trout Run's got a nice track.
The Trout Run, they're a remarkable bunch. It can rain in the morning, be raining an hour before the pool, and you're pulling an hour later. It's just amazing what they will try to get done and make happen. Um, we'll come back to you, AJ. Miss Nicole, you ready to talk to us now?
Yeah. Who are you looking for, Nicole?
Yep.
She
ready?
sent a note. She wanted to go last. So.
Oh, no. All right, we'll see you later, Nicole. We'll come back to you. All right. Mr. Crowe, do you have any, we want to talk to you a little bit about basic tuning tonight. You're going to be in a new part of our new series. We're going to try to do some tech talking. We don't know if we're going to do a special individualized show, but we're going to do a little tech talking with you tonight. I think we got some advanced spark plug pictures sent in. JR, you got them available? Paul, Paul makes a lot of performance parts, and he's been doing it for about 10 plus years, I believe. Comes from a long line, the motorcycle. Got a huge following in the motorcycle world. Most don't know about it. He's from Wisconsin. So we're going to let Paul fill you in on the rest of Paul.
You start talking and I'll pull the pictures up.
Where would you want me to start with? Just the
Hey, just a little background, design? Paul. A little background of where you come from and what you've been through, how you developed your business. How many people's in your business?
One.
That's the one we want to talk to then.
It's my wife and I and our dog. So my background is motorcycles. I've been in the motorcycle business since right out of high school in the mid 80s. I've been involved in all kinds of racing. So roughly 11 years ago, I quit my job as a manager of a huge motorcycle dealership and started C5. And we did ignitions, and then we got into carburetors, and we got into headers, intake and exhaust systems. And now we're working on a new ignition system and currently building a house and a shop ourselves. So I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off mostly. But I think in the spark plug conversation, just based on what people ask me both on, am I allowed to mention groups on Facebook?
Sure.
Okay, so I have our C5 company page, and then I run the antique tuning page, and I run a classic motorcycle page. So if you're into antique tractors and you want to know more about technical stuff, the antique tuning page, Tim Yates helps me run that group. And there is no bullying or no picking on anyone allowed. You ask the most specific question you can, you'll get fantastic specific answers back. So like I said, there's no bullying. It's a great way to learn. And spark plugs, people think that it's got to be complicated, and there's all kinds of wives' tales floating around on the other pages that are wrong. That can lead you down a really frustrating path. So I guess tonight, Olin and I figured we would just start with some basic stuff. And we can always have a second session if people want it.
All right.
So, what I don't remember all the pictures I sent. You can just throw one up there. It doesn't really matter. I can go in any order you want me to.
Let's start with valves.
I think I sent what, 3 or 4 pictures?
I have like 4. I think I have 4.
4.
We're starting with the notebook sheet here, real quick.
Okay. I mean, I can ramble on, but I think people would rather look at pictures.
I'm trying. Okay. All right, we're there. We're getting there.
Okay. So this is a picture that I actually made for a customer of mine, and it specifically dealt with the John Deere, but it does apply to everything. In the John Deere, the spark plug is in the side of the cylinder and not in the head. And anyone who's using an adapter plug from, let's say, an 18 millimeter, which is a huge plug they don't really use anymore, and you're trying to convert it to a 14 millimeter, which is more common with motorcycles, snowmobiles, cars, then they put inserts into the head. So it doesn't matter whether you're imagining this being a cylinder like a John Deere or a cylinder head like anything else. The moral of this drawing is that the insert needs to end at the end of the threads. In a John Deere, a lot of times I've seen, and I've got actual pictures where people thread in an insert, and the spark plug sticks well beyond the insert. So as you can see, there are, let's say, a half an inch or a quarter inch of exposed threads on the spark plug. It is absolutely critical if you're running adapters, or even if you're not, the spark plug thread have to end at the end of the head or the cylinder. And the reason why they have to is because the heat range of the spark plug is only accurate if the spark plug is threaded in correctly. So a really short head with a really long plug, not going to work. Either way, you want the end of the spark plug threads to end at the end of the factory threads, if that makes sense. That's something that we don't really talk about in the motorcycle side because it's really more of a tractor specific issue. But it causes all kinds of problems, detonation and overheating and tuning issues. And I think a lot of people don't even realize that they caused their own problem, or that they were told to run a certain spark plug and they never verified that that was correct information. Always assume data that you were given is wrong. Verify. So I don't know that I need to say any more about that, but if you pull out your spark plug and there's a whole bunch of black ending on it, and you know that the spark plug extends beyond the threads, you've got to fix it.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
A good example of the opposite of that is actually the 4-cylinder Farmall diesels that have the starter plug that starts on gas and switches over to diesel.
That would be the MTA?
Well, that style, but they start on gas and run on diesel. But
okay.
The actual plugs that are originally supposed to be in it are called starter plugs, not necessarily spark plugs. And when you cross the number over, a lot of them don't thread far enough into the cylinder head, so you end up not being able to get the tractor to start on the gas side at all. So what you're saying makes perfect sense. They really have to meet up with the head, and it has to be, displaced to the piston where it belongs.
I think it's fairly easy to verify. I mean, you could use a piece of welding wire with the bent end on it, make it look like the letter L, and go down and find out how deep are the threads, and then just compare it to your spark plug. If there's more than a one thread difference, and perhaps I understand there are some applications where there just isn't the right spark plug. I mean, there were how many different tractors out there? Hundreds. But you can get close enough to eliminate tuning issues. And again, if your spark plug extends beyond the threads, it's going to run hot. 1 or 2 heat ranges hot, and it's going to cause all kinds of problems.
Right. Paul, explain to them the color on the strap and where the color lines should be.
Do you have a picture of a spark plug where the ground strap is shown? I believe I sent one in. Okay, there you go.
It's one of them.
All right. Okay. So you see the white insulator, and the center electrode comes up the middle. The ground strap is the J-shaped or L-shaped piece. There is a line that forms on the spark plug. That's not a great picture of the heat strap, but right about where the bend is. So halfway between the end of it and where it's welded onto the spark plug, there's going to be 1 or 2 lines. Sometimes it looks like a single wide line. Sometimes it's 2 distinct lines. That is the heat line. And that is an indication of, how hot the spark plug is getting. Like if you take a piece of metal and you put it in a forge, anyone that makes, there you go. Choose that one. There you go. Okay, that's a little bit easier to see the color difference. You're shooting for a line that is right where it's at in that picture on the bend. So when you're heating something, take a piece of metal and hold a torch onto it, or put it in a forge, or put it in a campfire. it's going to have a line on it where the heat changes. You want your line to be at the bend on a spark plug. Now, sometimes that's closer to where it's welded on. That means it's too hot. If it's closer to the tip, that means it's too cool. Essentially, a spark plug is designed to light the fire, to light gasoline or propane or diesel, or I should say diesel, but it's designed to light the fuel. But if the spark plug gets too hot, it'll cause auto ignition, detonation. It can even melt down and fall into your engine. So if you take a brand new spark plug and you run it in your tractor for a few times, go take it out for a good hard couple of pulls, you're going to see a line like that show up. And if it's too close to the welded spot, you either have a heat range that's unacceptably hot, or you're running excessive timing, which is causing internal combustion temperatures to be high. So that's something that, again, you can even lightly wire brush it and still have that line there, but you can't go out and run it for 2 minutes and find the line. You if you're going to do it on a pulling tractor, go pull it half a dozen times, and then look for that line. And again, if you're running, let's say, on an NGK spark plug, the lower the number, the hotter it is. So a 4 is the hottest and 11 is the coolest. If you're dealing with Champion or Autolite, their heat numbers are the opposite. A lower number would be a cooler spark plug. So again, I'll use NGK because I'm most familiar with that. If you're running a BR8ES and the line, it indicates that it's really cold, like the line is right at the tip, then drop to a 7. If the line doesn't move where it's supposed to be, then drop to a hotter number. But you have to be careful because, as Olin knows, when you're running high octane race fuel in particular, there's a lot of stuff added to make it not detonate. That stuff doesn't burn. So there's sometimes when you have to run a slightly warmer plug than you'd normally want to. And this will help you get to that spot. Your tip temperature should be between 500 and 800 degrees Celsius. If it's too cold, it starts to accumulate crap and it'll foul out. If it's too hot, it starts to destroy the spark plug and it causes detonation in your engine. So I did write an article for the Hook magazine at some point that did indicate. Olin, is that your spark plug? No.
No, I don't know who that is. The one I sent you a long time ago, Mikey Hickson was holding it with a leather glove. But I have some questions for you, though. I have some questions before you got to plug up. All right, now you was talking about the part of the plug exposed beyond the head. All right, can you identify it in that picture? And the second thing, another question I got is any thread sealant necessary, or is best to run as clean a plug as possible against clean as metal as possible?
Well, you're asking some dangerous questions. Okay, so
I understand that.
Okay,
I understand. And then I have a third question too.
Okay.
Third question is, when is the best time to check a plug? Is it as soon as you get done hook at the end of the track, shut the tractor off and check it right then, or after you idle back at the pits?
Okay, so I'll answer your first question, which is, can you indicate if a spark plug is too long? If you look at that spark plug,
picture,
you'll see a little bit of discoloration on the first 2 threads. Now, that doesn't mean that spark plug was sticking out. That can indicate other things. And there is a chart. I won't get into that now, but there is a chart that can indicate things like excessively rich conditions where the color on the spark plug, let's say it's starting to turn black, maybe it's too rich, that will start to bleed down into those threads because it's not a super tight fit. I mean, there's got to be enough looseness where you can take the plug out. So that if your spark plug is sticking out too far, like say on a John Deere, it will be painfully obvious. It'll be black as black can be on the threads towards the end. It's mainly, again, Richard mentioned one example, but it's mainly a John Deere question. John Deere people call all the time and ask what inserts they should have. The second question you asked me was what? When I should check the plug?
Right.
No, that was the third question.
That was the third question.
Well, the second was, what do you put in a coating on the plug when you screw it in a hole, or bare metal?
Okay. So that is a much argued point. I do not like to use anti-seize. And there are anti-seizes that are rated for electrical use and some that don't mention it. Depending on who you ask, some people say it doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's got aluminum dust mixed in with never seize that should conduct electricity. I personally have had issues with some motorcycles where a customer just used a paintbrush to put anti-seize on. In my personal opinion, with the issues that I've seen, mostly on the motorcycle side, I would not use never seize on a steel head. On a motorcycle with an aluminum head, you can get in trouble if you thread in a metal spark plug into an aluminum head. So we lightly use it. But on a tractor, I don't really see there to be a benefit to that. Again, some people swear that there's absolutely no way that never seize can cause electrical problems. I have video proof that says otherwise. I'll just leave it at that. It can cause issues. If you can get by without using it, I would avoid using it. But I would make sure that your threads are super clean, both in the engine and on the spark plug. And then your third question, how do you check a plug? Probably one of the most misunderstood concept. If you're running your vehicle, and let's just say that you're trying to tune it at half throttle. So when you get down the track and you start getting a load on the engine, and right then it starts to cough or sputter, or you feel the performance isn't where you want it to be, and you decide you're going to check the spark plug right there, then you have to shut off the engine right there. So it then would be running down the track, getting to the point at which you're starting to have the problem. You shut off the throttle and the ignition at the same time, which will stop you on the track. And you need to pull the spark plug out right there and check it. You don't idle it at the end and back it up to unhook the chain. You don't run off the track. You don't drive back to your truck. You don't do anything. If you want to check what the spark plug's doing under a load, under the pull, let's say 3/4 of the way down the track, then you've got to either go to a test and tune day or talk to the sled operator. Maybe you can make a run in the morning. I know at Tunica, they generally have an extra sled in the back for people to test. That's how you do it. So you shut off the throttle and shut off the ignition exactly where the problem is or where you want to check it. Take the plug out and read it right there. If you do anything besides that, you might as well not even bother because you're not going to get the right reading. Just sitting there idling for a few seconds or driving back to your spark plug wrench is a complete waste of time because, and again, let's say on a snowmobile, the problem normally is at a full throttle condition. And let's say our sleds run at 9,000 RPM. So when I pinch the throttle, your snowmobile goes to 9,000. It stays at 9,000 the whole time. So if we're going to have a problem, take it out, warm it up, and get it up to operating temperature, hammer the throttle, run across the field at 9,000 RPM and do the same thing. Chop the throttle and check the plug. And the reason why we would want to check the plug at 9,000 on a snowmobile is it almost is always running at 9,000. On a tractor, you want to check it where you're having your issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good answer?
That's getting pretty close there. And there's more to plugs. And, over a period of time, Paul, I believe you found out that original equipment setups on tractors sometimes do not always make plugs run the same all the way across the tractor. And the intake, the way it's fed, some intakes put more fuel to the center, some put more fuel to the outside. In actuality, you found that in some situations, and some old timers knew it. I know Richard's grandfather knew it 20 years ago. He would put different plugs in different locations, hotter and cold ones across the tractor to make it burn good.
Plug in the middle, colder plug in
and as I remember, as Richard's uncle said about his father one time, he said, I thought the old man was crazy. He said, hey, would never buy 6 of the same plugs for a 301 farm off. He said, but at the same time, he was matching the plug temperature to the conditions that the tractor run at due to the intake design of the manifold at the time. So there's a lot of little things involved in all this. And it's a great learning experience. take some time to learn your tractor, understand what's going on. And sometimes it's not really difficult. It's just a matter of understanding it.
Oh, Richard's grandpa is a genius because that's something that we've done on motorcycles for years and years. And you're absolutely right. And a 301 is a really good example of where you might have to do that. 6-cylinder tractor intake manifolds are notorious for delivering unequal fuel. And as you mentioned, Olin, in your tractors, you know this from experience, that you have excessively rich running on the center cylinders on 3 and 4. So yeah, if you go just one heat range hotter on your center cylinder to clean that spark plug and keep it the same on the outside, you have solved the problem. You're getting excess fuel in the 2 center cylinders. Now, if you're running, a header, which I happen to make, our struggle, and my struggle, is always to make sure that absolutely every port gets identical air fuel ratios. That never happens on a manifold. Never. It doesn't happen on a 4-cylinder, but it's worse on a 6-cylinder because of how long it is. So you're right. If you're seeing that the spark plugs are fouling or getting dark on the center cylinder, go one heat range hotter, but don't go across the board. Every spark plug can be handled as its own little micro engine. So you're right. And Richard, you're blessed to have somebody that smart in the family, because it's a lot of people would say that's crazy. Don't do that. And there's no reason why you shouldn't do it or couldn't do it.
Yeah, and there's still so much more to discuss on spark plugs. The racing world indexes theirs, and then we talk gap and on all sorts of things. And then we talk spark plugs without electrodes on it, straps, and the round ones. I think you got a picture of one. It's rather interesting when you go into spark plugs. Something seems so simple. What happened to the?
Go from one ground strap to 4.
Okay,
there you go.
So I'll be real brief with this one. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, you will be. Hold on.
But,
Sorry about that.
Wait, where'd it go?
It's here.
Super brief.
Okay, so the one on the left with that's flat is called the surface gap spark plug. And my only experience with that spark plug is on rotary engines. When you're running old snowmobiles or a Mazda, rotary car, they use a surface gap spark plug because it doesn't have a piston that goes up and down. It has a vane that runs in a circle like a supercharger. So they don't have a ground strap because it would get smashed off by the rotor. So a surface gap spark plug has one advantage. There's nothing in the way of blocking the spark. So your gasoline can be lit 360 degrees around that center electrode. The one to the right with the sort of C-shaped one, there are a multitude of companies. Splitfire was one popular one, and there's I can't remember the current one, but anyway,
E3.
E3, and NGK also makes that plug, although I was friends with one of the engineering guys there, and he laughed because I said, well, we know E3s don't work and Splitfires don't work because Splitfire actually lost a lawsuit for this. They'll tell you that they'll build more power. I've got some scientific research papers that show otherwise. But anytime you're blocking the flame has to go around that big thing hanging over the top. A lot of times on just a single electrode, we'll trim it back and turn it into a side electrode. And those are popular as well. You can buy side electrode spark plugs from the store that are made that way. So you want the spark to go in a lot of different directions, you could argue, to light the fire better. But when you have a great big thing shrouding that center electrode, that's a hot mess in my book. And again, it's not my opinion. I have scientific reports that I paid for that show that the one on the left, the surface gap or a side gap spark plug, generally outperforms every other one, and it's proven data. So anyway, if you want to run E3s, run E3s. If you want to run Brisk, which has a stack of electrodes, they're stacked up sort of like Oreo cookies. If that's what you like, run those. They're expensive, but if that's what you like, run them. The one disadvantage of the spark plug on the left is you cannot adjust the gap. So if you're trying to run, a smaller gap because you're running higher boost or higher cylinder pressure, you can't. It's set from the factory. But if you've got a decent ignition system, it's really not an issue. You should easily be able to run 20 to 25 thousandths gap. Sometimes we'll run 15. I won't get into why, but that's the one disadvantage of not having any kind of electrode. So you have no way to adjust the gap.
What is your preferred? I mean, there's a lot of good ignition systems out there.
Come on, man.
There's not a lot of options for tractors. There really isn't. There's points and there's Pertronics. Pertronics is an electric set of points. Instead of mechanically opening, it uses electrical switch. Whether you run an MSD box and multi-spark or not is completely irrelevant to running points or Pertronics. So, and then was our old system, which was using an optical trigger, which we don't sell anymore, and I'm working on a new one. So, if you ask me which one I like, sorry about the train, we live right on the tracks. The one that I like best is the newest one that I'm working on, although it's not for sale. So I don't know if it'll ever be. Well, it'll never be for sale to the whole general public. But it's very similar to what cars run. Some people do very well with it, and a lot of people can't get basic wiring down. And if you're not very good at wiring, you're going to hate anything that's electronic. They're all junk if you can't wire things correctly. I'll leave it at that.
All right, let's move off of the electrical systems, and let's take something simple as resistor or non-resistor. Just a simple, simple, right?
That's a good one.
Okay. It sounds simple, but is it?
No.
You never need a resistor unless you're running an electronic ignition. I know in the motorcycle world, they'll say, well, they switched to resistor plugs so it didn't interfere with the radio. That is true. A non-resistor plug can screw with the radio, but they put resistor plugs on motorcycles that didn't have radios and never would have radios. So the answer is really simple. Electronic ignition will be affected by electronic noise. So you've got these coils cranking out tons of voltage. They switched from, so let's look at a tractor. You had a magneto. They had solid wires. My dad's model, he's got a AA Ford 1930. They didn't even have spark plug wires. They used straps, wide straps, like as wide as my finger. So no spark plugs, pure straps, right? No resistance, made tons of noise. No one cared. It was 1930. You started to get into electronic ignitions. You started to see ignition failures because you were generating a ton of noise. It was going back to the ignition and smoking components. So they put in a resistor inside the spark plug, normally 5,000 ohms. Not always. Motorcycles had 5K ohm spark plug caps. So the cap had 5,000 and a resistor plug would have 5,000. Now, wires also have resistance, the newer ones. We were using 800 ohm per foot wires from Moroso. The Blue Max wires are 800. Some resistor plugs only have 40 or 50 ohms resistance in them, what I would call low resistant wires, and I would never rely on that wire to filter noise. In that case, I would run a resistor plug as well. But then we've also used 3,000 ohm per foot, which is extremely high filtering, and we've used those on the BWD brand stuff. So if you have a tractor that can't run a resistor plug, you can just simply switch to a resistor wire or a resistor cap. So a resistor is really important if you're running a modern electronic ignition. Absolutely. If you're running mechanical points or you're running a magneto, absolutely a waste of time. Don't even put them in there because it doesn't serve a purpose really, unless you're running an AM radio and you want to be able to listen to Paul Harvey. But other than that, a resistor plug and spiral wound wires are designed specifically to filter the noise that melts ignitions. That's why it's there.
And Paul, on
Yes.
ignitions, you have found, I believe, biggest problems with ignition is butt connectors, grounds, switches,
Bad connection.
Bad connections. Just generalize.
High resistance because of bad connection.
Yeah, or tape wires. Guys, most time, look there first. Keep it simple. Check your fuel filters. Check your wires. Make sure you have nothing loose. And more than not likely, you'll find your problems there on your first go around. Then there's always the water and the gas tank stuff and
yeah, you don't know anything about that, do you? Yeah.
Every
time you hang a wheelie, your tractor runs like crap. You blame the ignition, and you find out that you've really got 2 gallons of water in your tank. No, I mean, you and I ran into that problem, and luckily, we solved it.
We've been through several problems.
We solved it fast, but today, I'm working with 2 people that are having some running issues, and we're not sure if it's electrical or carburation or fuel. So we're running some tests just systematically, hey, change this one thing, try this one thing. What did it do? No difference. Okay, great. So he bypassed his whole tractor, wired everything to a master shutoff switch, grounds directly back to the battery, power coming directly off the master shutoff off the battery. We've eliminated the tractor wiring. The problem didn't go away. Okay, that's still good. Now we know that it's not wiring with his tractor, which we have had that problem before. So again, not picking on anyone. I don't care whose ignition you're running. He is running our older system, but it doesn't matter. MSD or whatever, pick your point, whatever makes you happy. But if you don't have good grounds and you don't have a good power supply, you're going to have a problem. You're going to. It doesn't matter. I'm having a problem with my truck right now. My Ford, it's got 7.3, most reliable diesel that was in a Ford truck. Great. It is a reliable engine. But right now, I've got some weird grumbling. Sometimes it starts. Sometimes you turn the key, you start the truck, and it shuts off, and you don't even have a dome light. So it's not the truck's fault. There's something going on in there. So again, systematically, coils should typically probably be on a relay. The relay can handle a lot of power. If you're running your coil power through some cheesy little Taiwanese switch from O'Reilly's, don't. You should change that like yesterday. It's very, very simple stuff, but 99% of all the ignitions or coil failures that we ever saw in business, and we've sold thousands, electrical problems with a vehicle was almost always the actual problem or the source of things going up in smoke. And it can be proven. So, yeah, if you're not very good at wiring, find a friend, buy him beer, buy him dinner, buy him gas for his truck. But let somebody who knows what they're doing help you with your tractor.
All right, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.
Most delightful to have you on. Hope to have you again.
Finally. I got a headset that works this time.
Yes, you were. I got is Nicole coming back later, or going to do it with her now? Where's the status on Mr. Nicole?
I'll have to send her a message.
I want Richard and Sarah to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in Delmarva.
No, Richard and Sarah.
Richard and Sarah, we're going to even twist this a little bit like this. Just a little bit like that. Well, I'm going to move over like this. There you go. There you go.
Okay. You want to start? Ladies first. Okay.
You're president.
Unfortunately. So, first off, we're supposed to have a full Sunday, but it doesn't look like Mother Nature is going to cooperate with that very well. If in fact that does get canceled, then the next thing Delmarva will have going on is Delmarva's first attempt at a payback and mini bracket pull. You made the flyer, and you can go into the details.
Be on July 8th for my.
STR's got a fire.
Do you have a flyer, Jay?
He does.
That I made pretty.
Yeah, hold on. I just got Nicole in. Hold on a second. She's not doing too good with internet. So anyway, you have a flyer for
the bracket pull. It's the blue flyer you have in your messenger.
You sure about that?
I'm positive.
Hold on. Keep talking. I'll find it.
I'm used to it being my fault, but I know he has it. I double checked.
It's at Tuckahoe Steam and Gas Show. Their gas show is actually going on at the same time, so whoever's participating has to be there by 9. Otherwise, they're not going to be allowed in. We have to have a cap of 25 tractors because we have a very small time slot. We're going to be running 45, 5, 55, and 6, dealing off of AJ's pool. Top 15 points will be eligible for our championship bracket. That weight class will be 57.50, 6 mile per hour.
Speeding cars.
This
It hits.
is 6 mile an hour. Big tire any cut up to 18.438. What's the hitch?
18 and 20. 18 back, 20 high.
Okay.
Be no weight allowance.
No weight allowance.
Weight you're dead on.
Not that one, the other one.
You have the other one. I've seen it.
That was the first flyer. He wants you to do the second flyer, the blue one.
I have it on Facebook with the link for pre-registration, and I really hope people pre-register because that way I can keep track of who's coming and if we're going to have enough tractors. For the mini bracket, $500 goes first place, $300 for second, and then of course we're going to run the gamblers class. The gamblers thing in the background.
So we actually have copied a lot of it off our Northern Pullers.
I copied it right off AJ's.
AJ, and so, we just took it word for word. AJ, thank you.
Terry Brown, if you're listening, thank you too.
Yep. Don't. And anybody else, don't be afraid to copy off them. They won't get upset. You can see it really bothers AJ.
Actually, to be honest, I went to Jordan Ferris because he started doing this last year up there at his pool, and so I went and talked to him. So I can't take the credit. It's Jordan Ferris.
Where was Jordan's pool at? Tell us where that was.
I didn't get to go to it. Middle Creek had something going on, but Dale Buckley and them went to it. I can't remember. Greg Remley.
The one at Burr Hill?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's right. Gonna say Greg Remley would know for sure. I've never been to his track. I've been wanting to get up there. But yes, Jordan Ferris is the one that takes credit on all this.
That's
so
good.
I called him up and said, hey, do you care if I use your idea? And he was cool with it.
There you go. Jordan Ferris. Thank you. Anyway.
Imitation is the best source of flattery. So.
And I think there'll be more of it. And that's what we try to do with this podcast, is share the information around and move on. There you go. Got a new flyer, right?
I think that was just sent, so that's why I didn't have it.
Nice try.
Richard McIntyre tried to put me on the spot. You're wrong.
Nice try. I showed him.
Yes. So they have their 50th anniversary at the Steam and Gas Show. It's going to be a big event down there. They do have, like I say, very restrictive on entry times and exit times because of so much going on. We also are having another pool.
We have our regular pool the day after, so if anybody wants to stay over, they can and leave their tractors on display.
Yes. And then we have our other pools coming up. You want to read through a couple of them real quick? And tell who announce our promoters or just run one?
That's the great thing, because the one right behind that bracket pool and that regular pool is July 22nd at Colchester at the Kent County Fair.
That was also my pool. It's all about old school.
You can. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. It was something we're considering.
No, it's going to happen, but it just might be on the day of, not a different day.
Well, we're considering it.
It's happening.
Now, I need to back you up here real quick while I was in depth trying to find this flyer that evidently I didn't have till a few minutes ago.
July 10th, but okay. Or June 10th, but okay.
You got the Delmarva schedule available too?
The pool schedule for this weekend you're talking about might be a wash.
It's more than likely going to be, but we're still crossing fingers at the moment. One of our guys that's there on the ground was talking about, basically sinking in 3 or 4 inches just walking across.
Oh, no.
So
Does that mean Fawn Grove's on?
and he's not an overly heavy guy, so
Yeah, Fawn Grove is still on. Fawn Grove. I'm sorry, Richard. I know our East Coast event down in Delmarva, Delaware, it was canceled already. So grounds are pretty saturated down there, and he doesn't want to tear up the grounds too bad. So we were canceled.
more than likely we're going to have the same problem.
Your event's Sunday.
Yes.
Okay. I got a lot of driving to do if it don't get canceled.
More than likely, it's going to be canceled, but we haven't 100% made that decision yet.
Now, what are you
We're
asking me
stubborn.
for, Owen? You're next.
We're gonna come back to Sarah with Kent County. Is Fawn Grove on probably for this weekend? No,
Yeah.
maybe. Who knows?
Hold on a
Let's go
second.
back into Sarah for a little while.
Okay, so for Kent County Fair is a very old school fair. It takes it back in the day a bit, but so the thought process for that is I'm not sure if I'm gonna have it on a Thursday night or if I'm gonna host it during our actual pool, but I'm gonna introduce a new class called Old School Cool, and that's gonna be 55, 65, 75, 85, and 95. 100 pounds. It's 8 mile an hour, 16,938s or 18,434s with wheelie bars, uncut. And it is to bring back how it used to be for pulling, all of our newer stuff now. And it brings in, it highlights some of the older tractors instead of like 6 mile an hour and up tractors.
And you was talking about doing it in the evening time, a cooler part of the day. Is what
That
I'm
was the process. I can't do it Friday night, but it's talked about being Thursday night.
we still have to vote on through Delmarva and move on through all that protocol. But it's a possibility, could very well happen. It's a different concept there's a lot of tire restrictions around, and there's still a lot of 16,938 uncuts running around. I know Delta, Fawn Grove's full of, Cecil County is full of 16,938 uncuts, and with wheelie bars. So we're kind of making it real lucrative. And a lot of them are run heavy, and a lot of present pools are running lighter and lighter tractors, starting at 45, about 4s and 45s. Well, the older school started at 55, was considered really light. Most of them started at 65. So we kind of like, okay, well, maybe we missing something here. We're going to try to bridge back a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
And then I also would like to do a 30% payback on those classes.
Yep. Then she's going to try a little bit of modern stuff, the money thing, with the payback. And then, of course, now we've learned about gamblers' fees and stuff like that. Everybody's into throwing a little side money bets.
Sounds like nothing but a grudge match with money on it to me. So that sounds like a bad.
And for Kent County, tractor pulling, that's been going on for years. A large percentage of Delmarva tractor pullers are Kent County. So it would be probably a good location to start something like that.
Well, and some of the history or the thought process behind it was when a lot of us started pulling around Kent County, Cecil County, and all that. There were no 7, 8, 9, 10 divisions. There was one class. You met your tire size, you met your drawbar and your weight, and there's the sled. Pull it. Then it went to, not to pick on the John Deere people that I'm sure are watching, but AJ, sorry.
You pick on the John Deere people.
I sure would.
You run like one a couple weeks ago.
You had to go there.
Okay.
But anyway, some of the A's and the B's and even some of the M's complained when certain 6-cylinder tractors showed up and could pull the sled a little faster. Well, not real hard to figure out if you can pull the sled 6 mile an hour and the other tractor can pull the sled 2 mile an hour. You have a little bit of an upper hand. That's where, at least in this area anyway, then we went from just one class to we had a stock and then an open, and stock went to 3.5 mile an hour and open went right back to however fast you can pull it. Now Delmarva's went to 8 divisions. A lot of clubs have 3 and 4 instead of calling them divisions. You have don't disagree with that at all. I think it's a great idea, Greg.
Yep. Jordan Ferris, we're looking for you.
I actually missed a couple questions here. I apologize. Were you done, Richard? Go ahead and finish up.
And you cut me off now, so I lost my train of thought.
We'll move back to Paul Crowe here for one question.
Well, we're flexible. Sarah, you good on Kent County Fair right now? All right, and the bracket pool that Delmarva's doing, Tuckahoe and all, you good?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go back to some of the questions. And like I say, toward the fast, we're looking for you.
Ask him.
You'll be looking for.
Have any questions, ask me. That's fantastic.
Yeah, ask Richard.
I do have a question here for Paul.
Yes.
Jacob Moats would like to know the benefits to side gapping plugs.
Hi, Jacob. The benefits to side gapping is that you're unshrouding the area. So it was sort of explained to me, and this is a really simple way to explain it, but if you light a campfire, throw in something and toss a match, and the flame goes in every direction, it can grow 360 degrees if you don't have anything in the way. Now take that same campfire and put a 4x8 sheet of plywood along one side of it. The fire is going to go out in every direction except where the plywood is. So again, the more you shroud the ground strap where the spark initiates, where the spark starts, that's called the kernel. So you have a tiny, tiny little fire in one little spot, and then obviously that grows. The more you block it, the more you prevent the flame from growing in that direction. So if you have absolutely no blockage whatsoever, the flame can go in any direction it needs to go. And you have to remember that inside an engine, there's not a perfect mixture. There are lean and rich spots all over the place. So the direction the flame goes, that's not predictable. If you ever look at a glass engine of a flathead engine, it's even worse. It's like I don't know how in the world you try to improve that. But so a side gap plug has a very, very short ground strap. So you have your center electrode and you have your ground strap normally like this. If you can shorten it to here, now the flame can expand in any direction around here. And Jacob, you have my number. I think if you need more clarification, you can call me if you want to. But hopefully that explains it. Less shrouding is typically better.
Paul's on Facebook too. He's pretty easy to get a hold of.
Yeah, I've talked to Jacob before. Yeah, I live on Facebook. So, and if you're not a member of Antique Tractor Tuning group on Facebook, consider joining. It's a really good group, and there's no bullying and no shaming on that group.
Everybody say hi to Lynn Clark.
Hi, Lynn.
He is a regular on our show on Wednesday nights, and now he's watching here. So awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot to be learned about fuel air mixtures. Hi, Greg. We're even finding out that heads have places in the air, the fuel pools inside of it, and all of a sudden it moves and causes all types of weird abnormalities and running at times. There's all sorts of stuff going on. It's a lot of interesting things coming out, even for tractors made in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's amazing how it's it's being learned as we go. And I would like to talk to the original designers and tell them, like, what has happened to these tractors that you built and designed with a slide rule in the 40s? I don't even know what they say about a podcast. It would be just interesting to see what they would say.
Paul, can you do that briefly?
I'll speak about the main advantages of running your header.
We don't really have enough time to do that.
I said briefly.
We got all the time you want.
Mostly, just basically, you're controlling the air and the fuel, aren't you, Paul, and the exhaust pressure.
You have to remember. Okay, the first thing to remember is that antique tractors were designed to be reliable. If they weren't reliable, and you told your neighbors don't buy one, you went out of business pretty fast. So the focus was on, would it start in hot and cold? And, in May we had snow in the beginning and 90s in the end. So, we have a 60-degree swing. They never had flow data back then. My 1930 something, Alice is a hot mess if mathematically. It's a good tractor. It's a good running tractor. The main advantage of a header is to try to correct on the outside of the engine what you can't change on the inside. You can't redirect the ports. You can't, if you can make a new head from scratch, awesome. But if you can't, you're trying to increase exhaust velocities normally so that there is some functioning scavenging, meaning that you're sucking out the last remaining of exhaust instead of having an oversized tube. Most tractor pullers don't have a clue on diameters and scavenging and all that because everybody puts great big exhausts on them, and which is wrong. On the intake side, we try to do two things. One, we try to improve atomization, which is supposed to happen in the intake. You have emulsification in the carburetor, you have atomization in the intake, and then you have vaporization, hopefully, in the cylinder. And if you don't get those right, you lose a ton of power. So it's to increase efficiency. There's a million ways to make headers wrong. I'm learning all the time. I've been making them now, I think 5 or 6 years probably for tractors. I've made them for motorcycles for probably 30 years. I'm blessed to have friends that design this stuff for a living and have shared things with me that you're never going to be able to discover. So I'm very blessed to have smart friends. I'll put that. It's not me. I'm surrounded by some really crazy, seriously intelligent people with piles of data. So I hope that explained it in a short way.
That was a good short course.
As a short course, that's about the best you're gonna get it.
Richard and Olin run our headers. I mean, if you want to be cool, I guess that would be one way to be cool. Be like Richard.
I'm not allowed to have him because then he'd say I'd whip his butt.
You're still on the book this someday, apparently.
Isn't Richard the world's greatest puller? I read that somewhere.
Oh my goodness.
That was JR guy.
Hey, I'm from Wisconsin. I don't want to start a fight.
And you accepted the title.
It was both of
2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. He came on my regular show, which is Equipment Videos EEP Live, and we had him on as a guest, and he did a good job. First time probably ever done that. And we opened the show, and I said, "Well, Richard, we got the world's greatest antique puller." I meant no.
And it stuck.
It just stuck. And those guys down at Virginia, Chatham.
Oh yeah, it wasn't me. It was not me.
What a weekend that was! It was.
I think it's Drew Trophy.
Chatham is the only pull that I go to regularly because, again, our schedule with building a house and the shop doesn't allow me to travel. But Chatham is my place, and first of all, because most of my friends go there. And my personal opinion, there's not a nicer group of people down there. I really enjoy going down there. So, and I mean no disrespect to Richard. We're good friends.
No, I thought, man, he's going to get pretty upset about that, but he can take it. And I agree with you on Chatham. It killed me not to go this year.
Paul, while we're trying to figure out if we're going to get our other guest back or not,
she's trying.
Do want to let you know that Oliver Header finally got to actually do something last weekend.
I have at some point when you have actual cell phone service and you're not going to hang up on me, call me because I got I've got some 310 header stuff I want to talk to you about. But.
Absolutely.
We got Nicole back.
Good.
Nicole, it's your turn.
Yes, I'm back. It's been driving up and down the road, losing service. So we had our pool this past Saturday at Mason-Dixon. It wasn't a huge turnout. We had like 75 hooks, which is pretty low for us. But all in all, it was a pretty good day. We had some great weather for it. Had some people show up down there. And then we're going to be able to pull Saturday and Sunday here at Fawn Grove.
Old time days, Fawn Grove, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What exactly is old time days mean?
Richard's never been to old time days.
The parking is terrible. We're running Saturday night. We're going to have 6 mile an hour and open tractors running along with the trucks, which I don't deal with, but Sunday we're doing our 3.5 and 6 mile an hour as well up there.
There's some King of the Hill money classes Saturday night, isn't it?
Yes. There's a few jackpot classes we'll be running.
The hook limit?
I think we're sticking with 2 right now. depending on how many we get.
Poll starts what time?
Sounds like he's trying to jump shit.
3.
Poll starts what time?
3 o'clock. Stop.
No, we're just trying to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Richard's never been to Fawn Grove. If he gets a chance, he should be there, shouldn't he?
Yes.
There you go.
It isn't that far to drive. I mean, I do drive to the Millington area.
Hey, you what?
It's only an hour and
Mention that
50
again. Tell him how far it is to Millington so he knows how far it is back.
Hour and 50.
I don't know.
Yeah, if you come up to Mason-Dixon, it's literally like 5 minutes up the road.
Yeah, there's about 5-minute drive apart.
Mm-hmm.
Parking's a premium there.
Ugh,
Got another
that's a
track.
nightmare.
It's not like that at Delta, but it sure is over at Fawn Grove.
Yes.
I got the backup alarm just on the sled.
Mhm.
Somebody wants to drive it.
Mm.
I wonder who that is.
So there's a lot of good things going on. AJ, what's going? You said trout run this weekend. Oh, don't forget
Going now.
that was this weekend. And then don't forget our Southwestern bunch friends had a great pool this past weekend at Frank Rec Park. They said the track was second to none this past weekend.
Boone Phil's back on too.
And Boone's Mill's back on. You say?
Battle in the Moonshine Capital.
Oh, that's something to be talked about in the future. We'll be back to that subject. But they did say they had a great time down there, had a great track. Turned out to be a wonderful event for them. Don't have any of them on here tonight, but we'll be back to wanting to talk with our Virginia buddies as well.
They're pulling in, I believe Central Virginia is pulling in Orange, Virginia as well. Talked to LW earlier.
Orange this weekend.
His exact statement was, if he's listening, is I could come to Orange and get my butt kicked on Saturday, and he'd come to Easton and try to do it to me again on Sunday. Was his exact words.
Well, that was very considerate of him.
Wasn't it though? I told him he'd have a better chance if Lizzie drove the track. That's, and you witnessed that. You witnessed that firsthand.
I've seen that before myself.
Man, is that the same place we witnessed two sleds being pulled by the same tractor?
I've seen that too. But anyway, what time we got?
8:30.
Time we can hear any time.
Go with it.
JR, I think we're at a good stopping point. So I'd like to thank everybody.
I wanted to make sure I shared this flyer before I heard about it. So
Yeah, well, you can find that flyer now. Gotcha.
I found yours,
By Nicole's.
the one you sent right before the show started.
I told you, you don't get me with that. I done already showed him. I sent it to you on the 10th. But that's
No,
nice.
you didn't. No, you didn't, because you and I have talked on there this evening when you were having trouble logging on, and it is the last thing on the messenger.
That's because I forwarded it back to you. But anyway, either way.
Anyway, there's your trout run information.
I like to see people when I actually tell them thank you for coming on now. So, AJ, if you're still there, Paul, you still there? Nicole,
Yep.
you there at all? There we are. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Paul, we'll definitely have you back because Lord knows we could talk about other tuning issues for hours, not minutes.
You'll be back.
You pick the subject, I'll be here.
Uh-oh.
That's dangerous. Just FYI, that's dangerous. No! Damn it.
That run has been canceled. Oh my.
Trout run is canceled.
Oh, did they announce it?
What this ring, but damn it.
Yeah, Greg Remley just put a post on here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well,
Look,
Look,
thank
we're
you,
not
Joe.
canceled yet.
Fawn Grove's still on.
So what you're saying is supposed to load up and go to Fawn Grove.
There you go.
It's one answer for sure. Parking would be even worse than terrible. But anyway, it will be there. So anyway, yes. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Sarah.
Hey,
Thank
Jay,
you.
we had a good time the other day.
Yep. Thank
Yeah,
you for putting a nice
yeah.
photo on.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for letting me get on here and announce about it and then talk about it afterwards. And we greatly appreciate any of the input, and hopefully we can try to make stuff better and make a better pool out of it for next year. And
Well,
Olin, if you don't mind me, if I can add one thing real quick, I will
sure,
talk
go for
about
it.
it again. Halloween weekend, we're just doing the same thing like we did last year. It's just going to be a straight out money bash. You know, I'm going to do 5 classes of small tire cut, 5 classes of 6 mile an hour, 5 classes of non-cut small tire on Halloween weekend. All money.
All right. Halloween. So that would be.
I
That
haven't
would be,
looked at the
there's
date
nothing
yet.
on Delmarva's schedule, and we ain't put nothing on Delmarva.
That would be like. November.
28th and 29th.
October.
Okay, it'll be
I'll
that
give you
Saturday.
that one. Yeah, that one. Oh, there you go.
He already had it on the calendar.
You wrote on my calendar already. I'm gonna write money event.
Yeah, I will get a flyer made and get something started here shortly just to get it back out. But we done it last year on Halloween weekend, and it was a pretty darn good turnout.
Big tire, small tire.
He said both.
All of it.
Both.
There's going to be 6 mile an hour and 3.5 on small cut and 3.5 on small non-cut. And then the 6 mile an hour and any or 18.4s, any cut.
What you about?
The big tire.
He said big tire. 6 mile
Yes,
hour
big
big tire.
tire, 18.4. Big tire is 6 mile an hour is big tire.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So
AJ,
that
one
means,
last question.
yeah, go ahead.
Do you think being on the podcast actually helped your tractor count?
Oh, yes. I think between that and Greg Remley helped me out with getting a flyer made. So I say between the podcast, the flyer that Greg Remley's friend got done, and just everybody with the word of mouth, I think has helped big time.
Greg wants to know what classes.
I will get everything posted, Greg.
He just worried his tractor won't fit. It's too heavy or
Oh,
it's too light or it's too something.
he knows it'll fit.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
I think it's home.
What did you say, Richard? I'm sorry.
I said, JR, take us home.
Take us home. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. And we definitely want to get Paul back on. He's a wealth of knowledge. My goodness. And
You have no idea.
Yep.
That turns into 3-hour phone calls like that.
That's
True.
good. Nicole, we appreciate you coming on here. I know it's a pain in the butt for you, and you got to
Yeah, it's all good.
Find service. Yep. So Paul Grove is still on for the weekend this weekend. So unfortunately, Trout Run's canceled. So doggone it. And if anybody is an East Coast Pro Pulling watcher or attendee or whatever, we have been canceled in Delmar, Delaware this Saturday as well. So doggone it. Mother Nature is winning. We need the rain. We need the rain.
Sounds like a garage weekend.
There's other places to sneak off to in northern PA. So Laurelton sounds like a winner for me. We'll see. But anyway, thanks for coming on, y'all. And I'll get with Olin and Richard and Sarah, whoever, and we'll decide on another show here probably in a few weeks or so. And, what was that? Somebody said something.
Wasn't us.
Must be a ghost. But anyway, okay. Thanks for tuning in. And
Thank you, guys.
keep an eye on Facebook and YouTube for the next Delmarva Live coming soon. Y'all hang in there for a second. Because I got to get over to my page to say, see ya.